What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Eric Smith, with my co-host, partner in crime, James Shook. You're watching another episode of The Unfiltered Truth. We took last week off and went a little bit later this week just to be sure we could kind of switch it up a little bit and do a lunchtime broadcast for everybody, see how this works out. How you been, James?
I've been great. It's a little different doing it here on a Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday at noon. That's crazy. Absolutely.
See you off work on a Thursday.
Yeah, normally, but now my schedule's changed, so hopefully we can. If this lunchtime thing goes well, we'll continue with Bud.
Yeah, so we got a little bit to jump into here. First, I'll give a shout out to the sponsors, All Weather Construction. All Weather Construction for any of your home improvement needs. If you have renovations, remodels, anything home improvement based, make sure you reach out to Steven over at All Weather Construction. That phone number is 470-519-6988. You'll see that scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Again, that number is 470-519-6988. Reach out to Steven. Give him a call for all your home improvement needs. We also sponsor the show. We have Peach State Printing, and that's in Hiram, Georgia. If you guys have any printing needs, they cover everything under the sun, vehicle wraps, all the way to printing stationery for your office. Reach out to Jason and the folks over at Peach State Printing. That's 770-439-0335, or you can catch them at peachstateprinting.com. And we also have North Cobb Spine and Nerve for any of your chiropractic or physical medicine needs. Reach out to the staff over at North Cobb Spine and Nerve. That's in Ackworth, Georgia. That's 678-574-5678. Again, that's 678-574-5678. You can reach them at northcobbspine.com. And I think that's it for our sponsor slots.
Yep, they've got a new one coming in next week. We'll work all that out, and hopefully we'll have them for you next week. So I know we talked about that this episode was going to be us going deeper into preparing for everything that's going on, which we're absolutely going to do very shortly, but did want to kind of recap a couple things, talk about the debate very briefly, and then, of course, talk about anytime a big UFC event or MMA event happens, we kind of like to recap that. So let's go and recap the UFC event that happened this past weekend. It's recap basically the two big fights. You had two championship fights, Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa fighting for the 185-pound title. And then you had Jan Blachowicz and Dominick Reyes fighting for the vacant 205 or light heavyweight title. And I just want to get your thoughts on it, James, hear your recap on it, and I'll give you mine.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think there's enough to say about Adesanya at this point. That was, I know everybody overuses this word. It was a technical clinic that he put on with Costa, and Costa is he's not an opponent that you're going to walk in and typically dominate. I mean, he's normally dominating everyone across the board. So, hats off to Adesanya. He came in, put in a stellar performance. The hand speed and being able to locate his punches and kicks as sharply as he does, it's pretty amazing to watch. It's hard to say, but I think it warrants saying it. It's Paulo Costa was just outclassed in this contest.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was reading somewhere where Adesanya going in this fight had faced, I think, 6 out of the top 10 opponents in his division. Before and after winning the championship. And I think, Costa had only fought 2. And I think, you look at the experience level that Adesanya had over Costa and, just like you said, the clinic that he put on, the biggest kind of mind-blowing thing to me is you had Costa standing at his range, at Adesanya's range, just kind of taunting him and never advancing on him and not closing the gap, which was mind-blowing to me because that's Adesanya's game. And that's why he just beat the dude to sleep. And I saw an interview with Adesanya yesterday where he said he didn't even get in the face in 2 rounds, which I think is some kind of a record for the UFC. Didn't even take a punch in the face. That, it's crazy. But
it was absolutely phenomenal to watch. Costa just had such a problem getting him onto the fence and being able to cut the octagon off. It appeared so. Adesanya, with his kicks as well. I know a lot of people spoke of, Paulo Costa being able to stand in there and deliver kicks. And then why did he choose to just deliver kicks and not go to the striking game? I think it's just because he realized he was outclassed, and it's an extremely difficult target to hit Adesanya. So.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that if you want to call it the upset of the night out of the 2 fights was, Jan Blachowicz beating Dominick Reyes in very, very tough fashion. Knocked him unconscious, flatlined him. It was pretty crazy what he was able to do. A lot of people had Dominick Reyes, already crowned as the champ since he won the distance with John Jones. And in my opinion, Dominick Reyes didn't win that fight with Jones that night. But this was definitely not his night. And Blachowicz, I think, really just has shown that what he's going to be. I mean, to be 37 years old and finally, I think he had 6 or 8 losses in the UFC, which is the most losses any person's ever had, and then gotten the title. So, good on him for sticking with it. Just shows, hard work, determination, all that stuff pays off. Also, sticking to those people that got you to the dance in the first place. Most of his losses happened when he left his original coach because he thought he had to go to some big fancy gym. They got 3 losses out of 4 and then went back to the guys that got him there. And here we go. And he's on a 4-fight tear and just won the belt. So congratulations to him. He seems like a great dude. He's hilarious. He had his wife in his corner, which I thought was cool. So good for him.
Yeah, that guy's he's a stud for sure. Just a tough, headstrong looking guy. Dealt with Dominick Reyes with pretty much ease. I know early on, the filling out process between the two was, they settled in and they didn't get too wild and too crazy and start risking too much early on. But I think after the round kicks to the body, I think Dominick Reyes was fading as soon as you saw the contusion come up on the rib cage there. He looked like he was struggling to keep his head in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, he kept hitting that spot. It's like he had, like he had crosshairs on his leg, man, and he just kept hitting the same spot over and over and over again and just wore the dude out. And yeah, getting kicked in the ribs isn't fun, much less in the same spot over and over again. So good for them. It's a good event by the UFC. They continue to be the leader. I love Dana White. He doesn't care. He lets his fighters be his fighters. They can say, I'm all for it, man. Left wing, right wing, middle of the road. They all say it all, and nobody cares. Dana White's like, look, they can say what they want. They fight for a living, and we're not going to muzzle them. So that's all the more reason why I support the UFC, because it lets somebody like Colby Covington, say what he's got to say, and let Adesanya say what he's got to say. So I'm cool with it. But yeah, good on the UFC. I hope they continue to have success. I think they will. They're literally the only sport that I can tolerate to watch. I'll watch Bellator as well, but MMA is pretty much it for me at this point.
Yeah.
So, speaking of grudge matches and fights, we had the debate. What were your thoughts, man?
It was. It was not a brawl necessarily, but it was. It's hard to put that one into words. One of the things, and I think Chris Wallace is catching some heat about it in the last couple of days in the press, and is not so much defending Biden, just kind of cutting off what Trump was saying in some of his exchanges. And ultimately the guys are there to debate. I know they wanted to keep it in a format where they could ask specific question, get a limited amount of answer, and then move on to another question. But I don't think you're going to get a real good sense of, I don't think you get a real good sense of debate if you don't allow them to kind of go back and forth to a certain degree. And, I did feel like, and trying to be as unbiased as I can be, I did feel like that there was instances where the exchange was an accusation from one that was, pretty well warranted. And there's some evidence that recently came out, I think with the DOJ, the FBI, a couple other sources that backs that up. And, Chris Wallace just allowed Biden to say, oh, that's been disproved or discredited, and let him move on, and then kind of shut down Trump when he was trying to follow up with it. So, I think those things need to be discussed. They need to be talked about because by and large, the media just doesn't really they just don't really talk very much about anything that's being any accusations or anything that's being pointed towards the Democrats. And as far as the base goes, I think Trump did do really well at getting Joe Biden to contradict himself a couple of times. I think at one point he talked about the shutdowns and how Trump shut the country down and that's his fault. And then later they were talking about, well, we don't want the kids to go to school yet because it's not safe, or, basically and kind of endorsing the idea that the shutdowns were the correct thing and that needs to be going on. And all the while Trump's just saying, no, I want to get the country open. So I think that was a direct contradiction that Biden stated in the beginning and then revealed himself towards the end. And then also, I think it also shows that Trump stayed very consistent with, with law enforcement, with wanting to get the country, with the economy back up and fully. And I think the last thing probably was that getting back on the law enforcement thing when he had asked the question if you had which law enforcement agencies do you have that are endorsing you or that are backing you, and Biden was unable to come up with a single source. Of course, we all know this already. That kind of stuff goes without saying, but I also felt like Trump did a good job of getting of kind of pointing out, even though he was taking pot shots and kind of pointing out snidely, he was making a really good point of exposing Biden kind of flip-flopping on some of the radical left's ideas, which traditionally most of these so-called moderate Democrats tend to follow, and they really have a hard time denouncing any of it just for not wanting to lose any of their base. So I think Trump did a good job with that. Joe Biden, he just kind of sat there most of the time, and I think it was best that he stayed as quiet as he did. So he didn't really look particularly out of place or anything, and I think that was kind of their strategy from the beginning.
Yeah, I think so too. So I know I put my opinion about the debate on our page. Kind of what I thought. I thought Trump came across as a bully. But that's what Trump does. He's always kind of been that guy. And that's my wife and my kids and I were watching it together, and even my wife immediately she's like, man, he's being a real bully and blah 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 blah. And then the back and forth kind of turned me off to where I think Chris Wallace was kind of pandering to one person. I'll let everybody figure out who that person is, and he kind of let things get out of hand. I think part of it was by design, and it was just super unwatchable for me. So I watched it for 15, 20 minutes and then caught the highlights a little bit later on that night. Went back and watched some of the points and what was said. Do I think Trump did himself any huge favors in that? No, I don't. I don't think he gained a whole lot of support. But at this point, honestly, I think everybody's they're settled on who they're going to pick or vote for now anyways. So, I wish he prepared better. I really do. Biden was exactly what I thought he would be, but I thought Trump could have been better prepared and maybe stated some more facts. I think the biggest thing my wife brought up about it, and I, tend to agree with her on it, is when they asked the first question, it was basically about the Supreme Court, filling the vacancies. And they're like, hey, why are you allowed to fill the seats? Why should you? What constitutional thing goes, why won the election? I know what he's meant, with it. Yes, he did win the election. Yes, he is the president until, the next one gets inaugurated or he gets his next 4 years and, retakes the oath again. But I get that, and I think a lot of people do, but explain that. Just go into a little bit more. Hey, I did win the election. The Constitution says this, and therefore I'm allowed to do it. Yeah, I'm the president for 4, calendar years, not 3 and, 10 months. That's my option, and then he could have cited the stuff Obama said. He could have cited the stuff Ginsburg herself said, and a lot of other stuff. And, yes, did the Republicans, when they were in a similar situation with the Democrats, say no? Well, they did, yeah, because they were in control of the Senate just like they are now. And that's why they never went to the vote. So, again, Trump made a good point, but he could have done a better job of explaining it. I think if he had been a little better prepared, I think he would have come off a lot better. But again, Biden was what we thought he would be. I do want to share 2 videos because the media has been on Trump's ass for him not denouncing white supremacist groups, right? Like, oh, he didn't denounce the Proud Boys. Well, the Proud Boys aren't a white supremacist group, so get past that. Any video you see, you'll see Hispanic folks, black folks, white folks, all of them. Proud Boys, that Trump should not have denounced them as a white supremacist group because guess what? They're not. But let's get into this. I'll share this and get your thoughts. And I think Trump's done a pretty good job of denouncing white supremacy. In this video right here, we'll show you why.
Is evil. And those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in the eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law, and we are equal under our Constitution. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America. 2 days ago, a young American woman, Heather Heyer, was tragically killed. Her death fills us with grief, and we send her family our thoughts, our prayers, and our love.
So, I mean, what else do we need to see from him to say that's a pretty good job of denouncing white supremacist groups? Another point to bring up for listeners, and I'll let you say your piece, is, he did just declare Antifa and the KKK. I'm pretty sure the KKK is a white supremacist group, terrorist organizations. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no. Well, there was one thing that struck me in the debate where it was soon after this was brought up or mentioned, and I think the tone of it that was kind of set by Trump was that these are left radical groups that are in the streets, destroying cities and all the violence and burning stuff down, and then as Joe Biden got an opportunity to kind of dispute that, so to speak, he said, "Well, Trump, you're not condemning the white supremacy groups that are out doing the same thing." And am I missing something? Was there some white supremacy groups that were out doing this same kind of thing? Or I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not Trump supporters that are out in the cities like Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis and whatnot destroying the place. So I just, that made no sense. And Chris Wallace, no one even addressed it whatsoever. They just kind of let it ride through. And I think that's something worth mentioning. I mean, no, Trump is specifically calling out radical groups, and they happen to be left groups, or, if you want to throw them in the Democrat corner, you can. You know how I feel about left and Democrat versus right and Republican, but
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that was something that was stated. Why aren't you out condemning the white groups that are out destroying stuff? They're not. There is none. I don't see any. Do you have any knowledge of this that he's talking about?
No, I don't, and that's what's killing me. Yeah, you've had little confrontations here and there, but yeah, again, I don't think we've seen 3%ers, Proud Boys. I'll even say the KKK at this point. They have not been out rioting and looting. The KKK is abhorrent. They're disgusting. Yeah. They have no place in this world. But no, the answer is no. They haven't been out there. And if anybody can show me a video or send us a link, please do. We'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. We'll trash them just like we do all the other groups that are out there doing it. But the bottom line is you're not going to find it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but I mean, he is to a certain degree. Well, at least one of them is correct that there are white supremacy groups out that are causing a bunch of trouble, and yeah, because we're seeing tons of white Antifa out burning the cities down and attacking police departments and whatnot. So it seems to be that white supremacy is, I think it's always been something of the left. I mean, it was created by Democrats in the first place. But I think you're seeing it start to reveal itself with this, supposed anti-fascist group, which obviously is practicing fascist behavior. So yeah, so there is actually white supremacy groups out there that are pillaging. They're doing it in the name. They're doing it in the name of the black folks in America here, and they're getting away with it so far, and no one seems to be calling them out on it. So, other than Trump.
Yeah, and here you go. And speaking of that, with the ties of the left to white supremacy, that brings me right to the next video. It's like you knew what I was about to do. So here you go. Joe Biden giving a eulogy at Robert Byrd's funeral. Let's play this one for y'all. Get to it. Hang on.
Keeper of the institution of the Senate, and he was the institution itself. But to me, and many people here today, like guys I see, Bill Bradley and Jim Sasser, who long left the Senate for greener pastures, and I hope better remuneration. We used to kid about that too, but for a lot of us, he was a friend, he was a mentor, and he was a guide.
I mean, what do you say to that, man?
Yeah, that one's tough. Nobody wants to talk about that. So, I mean, Eric, you obviously fabricated that video, and heck of a man. Your video and Photoshop skills, man, they're on point.
It's a deep fake. What can I say? I'm that good. That's why I'm super rich. So nobody ever. But yeah, that's the problem that we have with reporting today. There's no. We could get in a whole other podcast about it, and we won't go long on it because we want to get into what our actual topic is this week. But it just shows the continued bias. It's a joke, and there's so much to be said about all this, but that's kind of my take on the debate. I wanted to put that out there for everybody because there was a couple of people that were upset with Trump that are friends of mine that are like, why didn't he denounce white supremacy? Well, he did, and he just didn't. He wouldn't denounce a group that they wanted to label as white supremacists when the Proud Boys clearly are not a white supremacist group, guys. Go do your research on them. I promise you they're not. Again, they have many people of color in that group. It's a pro-Second Amendment group. That does not make you a white supremacist, in case you were wondering, despite what Facebook may tell you. But yeah, that's the deal with that. So that kind of transitions us over, man. We wanted to get deeper into preparing for disaster with the election coming up. We're 33 days out now, right? I think is where we're at. 33, 34 is what I heard yesterday. And we want to get into all that because there's going to be, in my opinion, stuff that happens on election night that's not good. It could go from, little protests here and there. It could get extreme if Trump wins again. I think it's going to be on the extreme side. I think things are going to be bad, so much to the point that my mother is actually staying with me the night of the election, and for depending on how things go, for a little bit longer, just to be sure. And we want to get into more stuff that you guys need to have, and to help yourselves be immune to the supply chain problems that we're having, and all this other stuff. So, James, I'll let you kind of kick it off with that, and I'll just kind of bounce back and forth off you, brother.
Yeah, so there's many different types of preparedness, and we've discussed some of those as far as what people consider bugging in, bugging out. I think by and large, most people will be bugging in so that you can near your resources should you have some kind of civil unrest in your area.
Yep.
The bugging out thing, I think it's talked about a lot. It's a neat little catchword. I'm going to bug out, and a lot of people haven't really figured out where they're going to go and how are you going to relocate all of your resources, or how do you consolidate resources so that you know what to take and you'll be prepared once you get there. So what we've got today here, and I think you're going to have some of the same thing. I'm going to actually go through this bag right here of mine. And so I do have this bag here, and this is one of the bags here that we provide as well. I've got a plethora of stuff inside of this bag that is my go-to as far as a emergency situation bag goes, and I'll go through a little bit of this with you here if I can pull some pieces out of it. So actually, first, let's start here. Everybody needs a knife, and you need a really large knife too. So if you have the means of getting a nice big knife there, make sure you have that in your pack. You never know when you're going to have to cut a tree down or something like that. I also keep as far as knives go, I also keep a much smaller knife, something that's a little more practical, that I could slip into my pocket if I needed to, if I was unable to carry all of this stuff with me. However, let's go to what you might think is the least conventional thing in my bag here. And I literally have a ghillie suit. And this ghillie suit provides, a very high level of camouflage. It's very inexpensive. This isn't a very expensive ghillie suit. This is a run-of-the-mill kind of suit that's pretty much for the climate that we have and the environment that we have around the area that we live. So I do keep that in there in case I have to hide from some bad guys or get under a bush or something like that. And let's see, moving right along. Water, of course, you guys are going to have plenty of water. Water is going to be one of your most important things, as well as, and I know I'll let you speak on it a little bit, sure, as well as being able to purify some of your own water, which I do have some iodine purification tablets in here, but I think you do something a little different as far as water.
Yeah, so let me show you one of my things I've got. Actually, this is my most recent one I have. It's a Catadine Hiker microfilter. So it'll do up to 200 gallons depending on the water quality before it's got to be clean. You can get 1 quart, 1 liter per minute out of it. That's very lightweight. I mean, I've pulled this out of the box once. So the filter weighs less than the cardboard box does. It's very, very small, as you see, and it's easily can fit in your pack. I'm actually going to throw it in my go bag once we're done with this today, because I played around with need to play around with it a little bit first just to familiarize myself. But yeah, having something like this is invaluable. It's made for hiking, made for being on foot. It's very compact. It does not take up a lot of room. So I love that idea because that way I don't have to necessarily always carry bottles of water, because you and I both know they run out. But the good part about you having the bottles, and something I hadn't really thought about, is having a good container to put my water in. So if I purify it, I can dump it right back into one of these and keep drinking it, keep refilling my stuff that way. I don't have to stop constantly for water. I don't have to stop, every now and then to fill my stuff up. But yeah, you can go the mechanical route for filtration, or like you said, you've got iodine tablets and stuff like that. Some people don't like the taste that the iodine gives the water. To me, I don't really notice it. But yeah, there's many options. It's about kind of what you're comfortable with. What else you got? I noticed your multi-tool. Let's show that to the people. The one with the seatbelt cutter and the window punch on it. That was on your pack. Show them that one a little bit. Good morning. That's a very good tool to have. You need to have this in your vehicle with you no matter what. So talk about this for a second.
So yeah, it's great eye being able to catch that from when I held that bag up. But yeah, so what I've got here is I actually have this is a Smith & Wesson knife, and of course the knife has really nice blade, and it's extremely sharp. They actually come this way. This is what's called an Extreme Ops Smith & Wesson knife. Let me see if I can get that up there so you guys can see. And will that focus in?
Probably not, but I can put it in the comments.
Okay. But let's look at some of the features that this has. I'll close the blade back up. So on one end, you have right here, we have a strap cutter or even a seatbelt cutter on this side. This is something that would help you get out of the car. Let's say, should you run the car off into some water or something like that, or just be trapped inside the seatbelt. We need to get rid of that. This guy right here, slice right through it. It's actually a protected blade as long as you don't slam your finger up in there or try to actually get in there to cut yourself. It's reasonably safe. But I think the feature that you were talking about is this punch on the end of it. So I'll see if I can get that a little bit closer. Maybe this thing will zoom in. There is a metal punch on the end of this. And this is a great tool for breaking windows should you need to get in and out of windows or out of a car, something like that. So yeah, it's a nice little tool to have, even outside of having the knife blade on it. And it's very, it's pretty lightweight. It's a very durable knife. Has a great grip on it, great rubberized grip. We actually sell these ourselves. So if you guys can inquire in the comments if you're looking for something like that, or actually anything that I have in my bag today. If you guys are having trouble finding it, you can contact us and we'll get you hooked up with it. But I do want to go into something else, and I want to be clear about this bag. The bag that I'm going through right now is what I call my get home bag. And this bag is going to be made for should something happen when I'm away from the house and I need to get back to my residence so that I have the resources that I have stockpiled there. So a couple of things that you might not think about right away is, and this is things that I like to keep in here depending on, you never know how many days you might need to be on foot. So I actually have chewable vitamin C tablets. Let me see, I'll just start stacking stuff back here. I have water, of course. We talked about the water earlier. I'll try to hide the manufacturer of that so we don't get into any issues. We've got I do carry a lantern light with me. This lantern light, it is a pull to open lantern light. I'm gonna show you this guy right here. It's a pull to open lantern. It can be hung anywhere. It's a really neat device. I do keep a piece of tape on it just so that it stays closed in my bag. This is a great idea for you guys to have. Also, make sure that you have fresh batteries. I do have batteries for everything that does require batteries. I keep extras. So we've got the light there. I have these are a great thing as winter's approaching. I have two different sizes, I believe. If I can get these out. I have Polar Shield emergency blankets. These are a very inexpensive product. It is something that could potentially save your life in a cold environment or in a situation where there may be a freezing environment. These are great to have in your bag. And as a matter of fact, I keep multiples of these because you don't know who you'll be traveling with or who you're going to come across. And it's always good to have a few extras. I even have some two-person. The two-person is going to be the way to go, is should you have two people. And if you have more than one person, the body heat that you can generate by the two people, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, cuddling together underneath one of these blankets is going to double the amount of heat that you're going to be able to generate, and you're going to be able to maintain inside the blanket. You can even build a tent out of these so that you can get into them. They're very lightweight. I mean, this thing it weighs almost nothing. and it's very small and compact and easy for you guys to carry in your bag. So we have emergency blankets. I have a lot of emergency blankets. I keep tons of those. Comfort, and not just comfort, but this is also going, because it will, I think as a byproduct, it ends up being a comfort item. But this is something you might not think about should you have to stay overnight or sleep somehow in a situation that's less suitable than your house. And I keep a hammock in the bag. And this hammock is a very inexpensive hammock. It's something you can string up between a couple of trees, and this will keep you off of the ground. It is very important that you try to stay off the ground if at all possible when sleeping overnight out in the wilderness. So I do keep an inexpensive hammock there for that. Paracord. Everybody needs some 500 paracord, right? I mean, or some 550. Yep. This is a very common item that you're going to see in any kind of go bag or any kind of prep bag. You can use this for multiple things. You can rig tents out of this, making this the structural part for a tarp. There's tons of things you can do. You can even booby trap places that you're at, and, whatever you need to do with that. So we do have paracord. It's very important you guys have paracord in your go bag. I have a couple of those. I'm going to go ahead and go through here, Eric, so we don't have to keep switching back and forth. So cooking accessories, guys. I have a portable stove here. This guy right here is something that would potentially provide you with a hot meal, and should you be out somewhere where you're not able to get to traditional food sources. And of course, we have some fuel to go with that. The fuel sits. It's a can like you would see at a catering event. It's going to sit in the stove here, and this gives you a platform to place any cooking utensil that you have. I do keep a small pan as well, and so you can have number one, you can have heat with this, and you can also be able to have some kind of hot food to eat.
Nice.
Let's see, moving right along. Let's go ahead and set this guy up here. We need to be able to start fire. So I'm going to go from let's say the least conventional way to start fire to the most conventional way in my bag here. And I have Titan Storm matches. I'm going to see if I can get that up there where you guys can see that. Titan Stormproof matches. These guys are supposedly hurricane and completely waterproof. You can strike them in the rain. You can strike them in a typhoon. They are very large. They are as large as what you're going to see on this box here. So that is quite a match, and these are great for using in the rain. I do have some flint with a striker right here as well. These are very inexpensive, and this is a tinder kit, so that once you do get some flame started, you'll have some tinder, and it will continue to burn for a certain amount of time. This one here says burns 5 to 7 minutes. And this is great for getting, of course, you're going to have to find other brush and things like that to make your fire larger if you're using this tinder. However, this is a great start. It gives you 5 to 7 minutes per piece, and that can potentially save your life in a cold situation. Let's see, moving right along. I keep these fuel tablets. These fuel tablets are great for starting fires as well. It kind of goes along the lines of the tinder that we just had. As far as the tinder goes, it will burn 5 to 7 minutes. I think these burn about 9 to 11 minutes each, and there's 24 of these in a pack. This is something that's great. I've actually used this before starting fires in like my fire pit at home. These are fantastic ways to get fire started, and you can get a very, very, very hot fire going very quickly. So make sure you guys have fuel tablets in there. And then, of course, let me see. Where do I keep that at? I got so many bins right here in my bag. All right. So moving on to lighters. Got to keep some Bic lighters in there or grill lighters, either one. I prefer actually having Bic because it's a little smaller to travel with. I don't have to worry about the burning part being broken off of like a grill lighter, just because it's so long fitting in your bag and it's a little more pliable. So Bic lighters is a great thing to have. Of course, if you have lighters, then you're going to not have to work on striking your own fire or rubbing sticks together. Let's see what else we have. Less conventional as well, but highly effective is a 1 gallon Ziploc bag with cotton balls that are soaked in Vaseline. You can never have enough of these guys. I think I mentioned this before. My bag is kind of a walking fire hazard, so to speak, because I have so much stuff to get fires going with. So we've got the cotton balls there with the Vaseline. All right, moving right along. Toilet paper. I have a small bag where I have double Ziploc bags, some toilet paper. This is a partial piece of a roll that I've flattened out, and this is great to have in your bag should anyone need it. And you got to be able to communicate. So I have some 28-mile walkie-talkies right here. They're not super expensive, and they're not the cheapest in the world either. I think these ran about $55 to $60. 28-mile range on these guys. It is a great idea for you guys to be able to communicate should you not have the conventional wireless apparatuses to communicate with, or should networks be down. Moving right along. I have additional batteries, and I also have a battery charger so that I can continue to use those walkie-talkies. I think this is one of the most important things that I have in my bag, and some might argue with me on that, but I have 2 different sets of gloves. All right, so these are latex gloves. I have some lighter weight latex gloves here. I think I have about 10 pair in this bag. And then I also have some 6 mil very heavy black latex gloves. These are fantastic. They're also great for when you're doing some mechanic work or something around the house.
Yep.
And I sidetracked there because this is one of the most important things I think you can have in your bag, and it wouldn't be something that you would think of right away. I keep Post-it notes in multiple colors and pens and markers in my bag. So leaving notes, if you needed to, for any reason whatsoever, should that come up and you need a pen and some kind of medium to write on, having some Post-it notes and some pens or markers in your bag is a fantastic idea. And getting down to the last bit of the main portion of my bag, I have a multi-tool here that is an axe, it is a saw, and it is also a shovel. I'm not going to take this whole thing apart. It's got a few pieces to it, but this is a survival shovel, axe, and saw. And it is actually a pretty good quality for the price that you pay for these. These are very inexpensive, and they would definitely help you should you need to do some kind of digging or cutting or sawing, whatnot. I do have some fire strikers down in here, and the magnesium strikers, of course. But I also carry a bag with multiple bags that are pre-labeled of protein powder. Should it get down to a situation where you don't have any food left and you're going to have to resort to liquid diet here, I have some 120-gram protein shake, and I have this already set up into 6 servings. That would be 6 120-gram protein scoops. And I'm sorry, 120 calorie. These are, 20 grams of protein, 120 calorie protein shake.
Gotcha.
And then with it as well so that I can get into that. I keep 3 of those, so I keep about 18 servings of protein in here, and that should myself or anyone that I'm with get desperate for food.
Yep.
And Eric, before I go into the next portion of my bag, I'm going to let you take over a little bit and let's see what you got.
Sure. So I figured you're going to be using your bigger bag. So I've got you kind of see it over here to my right shoulder. It's going to be on the left side of the picture. But so I've got my go bag is what I call it. It's I've had this bag for years. It's by Esotech. I'll actually link their stuff because I'm such a believer in their product. We're not endorsed by them or nothing like that, but they're make very good products. So grab it. It's very well made, very rugged. It's got Molly on it. If you want to put some other attachments, some bags like mag pouches, which I actually have. I just don't have them on here right now. I keep all my mag pouches in this bag. But as you can tell, this bag's fairly small. It can be held in one hand. It's actually got another strap that I used that I took off it for the purposes of this video, where you can kind of wear it. Almost like you can call it a man purse if you want, but you can basically put it on your shoulder if you need to. My bag, I've got everything. I'm big on medications. I got like antacids, stuff like that sitting there just in case I get heartburn. And I'm going to keep linking people's comments as we're talking about this. Cat tourniquet, huge thing. Everybody needs to have one of these in your bag. If you take a gunshot wound or a knife wound, or something bad happens where you have an accident in the woods and you're bleeding out, having a cat tourniquet is very essential to having survival. It can absolutely save your life. Then, of course, I've got in my go bag extra mags for my AR. Got those. Minimum of 3 needed for sure. I've also got, where'd they go? Being able to access your stuff's important. Like you, got my knife, got my typical hunting skinning knife. Very important because if you need to cut something, whatever. This is pretty rugged. It'll cut small branches with it. Love this thing. It's just an old buck knife. I think Remington makes this one. Diving down deeper into it, again, more magazines for my pistol. There's a reason why all my guns take the same magazines. I don't have a bunch of different guns with different mags because if I happen to grab the wrong one or the right one, whatever you want to call it, they fit all my guns. Getting more and more into my bag. CPR mask, just in case like one of my boys, needs to give him CPR. Not trying to do mouth to mouth, love you, but we're going to do that for a lot of different reasons. Again, more medications. This is just generic Benadryl. I keep this just in case. I'm allergic to a couple things, peanut butter being one of them, but any kind of a bee sting, things like that people are allergic to. If you don't have the EpiPen, Benadryl is your next best bet. It's an antihistamine, which for those of you who don't know, it's allergic reactions. The histamines bind to it. That stops it from binding, stops allergic reaction from happening. Also in my bag, I've got cold packs. Got 2 of those, very lightweight, good for injuries and stuff like that. Like I said, this is really my go-to, my medical bag. When I was a police officer, it was my active shooter bag. I kept in my car whenever I was patrolling. I had this as extra because we weren't provided it. Then I've got, of course, gauze, tons of gauze, and then I forgot what those are. But anyways, this for packing wounds, things like that. I happen to be trained on a lot of that stuff for packing gunshot wounds, sucking chest wounds. Again, athletic tape. Your typical Band-Aids. Again, more gauze here. More meds. I keep, again, more allergy meds. I've got medical tape down in here strapped in, so I won't show you that. Again, more of this. Ace bandages, huge deal. And that's kind of just my go-to, my go bag that I keep on me at all times. It's with me everywhere I go. I've got a bigger bag I'll grab while you're doing another segment and show everybody that. I've got it kind of unloaded right now because I'm in the process of re-upping a lot of my supplies. I've got them laid out in my room of freedom, as I call it, and trying to figure out what all I need to put back in that bag. This bag's going to cost you about $150. I know that seems like a lot, but it's super rugged. This bag is literally, I promise you, at this point, 8-10 years old, and it's brand new. I've beaten it to pieces, carried it with me on calls. I've deployed it in the field before when I was doing police work stuff. And it's a great bag to have. Any kind of bag like that, I will link SOTech's website so you guys can understand or know exactly who they are. They are all American made. They make all their stuff to order. So it's SOTechTactical.com. Very, very good products. And again, James sells bags too. His bags are outstanding. I think the one he's got is one that we use. It's an extremely good bag. Highly, highly recommend it. And being prepared and having something like this as a minimum. I also do keep with me at all times. Come back here. I always have at least one of these with me. You got to be disciplined though. Take them in and out of your car. Don't leave them in your car so they heat up. Typical MRE. Again, about a 5-year shelf life on these things. They actually don't taste bad. This one's cheese tortellini. I've actually had this one before. It's very, very good. And we'll get into food supplies here in a second, but that's kind of my go-to, my medical bag, my active shooter bag. Like if I've got to get somewhere quick and I got to be operating light, that's what I'm carrying with me.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it in our last episode as far as like medications, and I know you had some Benadryl there, and that's definitely something that's extremely useful. Yep. I also keep things like I wear contact lenses, and I keep a box with 6 contact lenses in my bag. Should something happen and I need to exchange contacts, or should I lose one, or roll one up in my eye and have to dispose of it. So that's something that you might not think about right away, but I do keep at least 1 box of those in there. It's not a bad idea if you guys are contact lens wearers to have a pair of glasses that's close by, at least in your vehicle. if not in your bag, especially if it's something that you don't really wear. Like I have a pair of glasses that I don't wear at all, but they are my current prescription, and I do keep them in my go bag here as well, so that I would always have those with me, just in case I run out of contacts or something should happen. As far as medical goes, I have an separate medical bag, so I do keep a full trauma bag with me, and it's going to have everything from pain relievers in it to chest seals, quick clot, things that can take care of gunshot wounds, cat tourniquets. I think you had a cat tourniquet you picked up earlier. Do you have that cat tourniquet close by to you?
Always. So whenever I'm with me, this bag is literally the one. It sits, if I'm by myself, it sits literally in my front seat next to me, where all I have to grab it. It's the first thing you see when you open it. I also do have
Can you get the tourniquet back out and hold it up for a closer view on camera? Because I want to point out some of the differences between like a rubber band tourniquet versus a cat tourniquet here.
I'll open this one up. Big deal. Go ahead.
Yeah, with the cat tourniquet, I mean, you're going to have number one, you can usually much easier to get onto a larger limb, so around the thigh or around the upper portion of someone's arm, something where it's a little meatier and heavier than maybe, let's say, down at the forearm or at the bottom of the leg. Those cat tourniquets are great because they have the mechanism already built into them to tighten up the tourniquet on you and then to lock it in place. So they're not the cheapest thing in the world. I mean, I have seen decent cat tourniquets sold in packs of 2 for like $30, but I've also paid as much as $28 to $30 for one. So so that's definitely something you need to have. Also, anytime you guys are at the range or you're out, on some land, you're outdoor shooting or plinking or doing whatever, you guys need to make sure that you have cat tourniquets with you. That is a must-have anytime that you are using a firearm. And if you're going to have your gun with you, you're going to need a tourniquet for anything. It's a lot of times it's going to be for a gunshot wound. So make sure that you guys have at least one good cat tourniquet, if not one, everywhere that you possibly would have to reach, like your car or in your go bag or at your house, in the kitchen cabinet. Make sure you have tourniquets around.
And I want to go over one thing. You're absolutely right. And along the lines of what James was saying about the tourniquets, get training on them. I would suggest you can buy the trainer cat tourniquets for a lot cheaper. They're all blue. You can get them very inexpensive, and you need to take a class from somebody and get trained on how to properly apply one of them, not only to other people, but to yourself as well. It can absolutely save your life, but if you do it wrong, you can actually endanger your life or the life of your loved one. So be sure you get training. As with any other gear you use, you need to use it in a stress-free, controlled environment first, repeatedly. We've talked about this multiple times on the podcast. To be able to apply it under stress successfully is a huge, huge deal. So get those. James and I still got to put together. We're going to do a whole survival list. We'll do a PDF file, kind of like everything we recommend. And I think one of the most underrated things to have, this is a bug in or bug out piece that you can use. Good old school ammo can. These things right here are worth their weight in gold. This one actually is one of my few empty ones, but they're great. Why are they so great? Well, a couple different reasons. They stack very well. They're fairly compact, and they hold a ton of stuff. And me personally, I've got several ammo cans full of just magazines that are loaded, ready to go, because that stuff, you and I both know, on the best carriers, you can only carry so many mags at a time before you're like a bowling ball trying to run down the road. It's not very fun once you get past a certain weight. Having something like that stashed somewhere, is safe, is kind of good, because if you put some of the anti-moisture stuff in there, they're very good at keeping water out. They keep a good seal. They're easy to carry. You can actually strap them to your backpack. You can put multiple things in them. You can put food, medical supplies, any of that stuff. You can really keep that and kind of consolidate all your stuff to where it's not taking up room. Because you and I both know, you've got a ton of stuff in your bag. It's actually very impressive how much stuff you have in your bag. What do you think your bag weighs that you have? The backpack you should.
So the bag that I'm carrying does weigh about 30 pounds. And that's stacked with everything that I have right here. Of course, I've got, the water is going to be reasonably heavy. Water actually is going to be the heaviest thing I probably have in my bag. But when you combine some of these other items together, yeah, there's going to be a certain amount of weight to it. So 25 to 30 pounds, maybe. I might be overshooting that a little bit now that I think about it. That's
Sure.
Yeah, it's at least 20 pounds. But I like to be prepared and have as much stuff with me, and basically the whole have it and not need it rather than need it and not have it. So
speaking of that, so we were talking about the bugging in. I don't know how much we got into it the last time with different types of food and things that you can have. I know we talked about it a little bit. So right now is the time if you're going to re-up your food supply and you're going to go into, hey, this is the first time that I've ever purchased MREs or dry food, or there's many different kinds of food, and I kind of want to cover a few of those if you're good with it, and go over what they are, what their shelf lives are, and kind of give you an idea of what to look for when you're buying this type of food, because there's so many different kinds out there. It can be a little overwhelming, honestly, if you don't know what you're looking at. And just kind of wanted to talk about some things to think about with that. So
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm gonna actually find some direct sources here as well so that we can give them to the viewers. So
that's what I'm doing as well. I've got one I've actually ordered from them before. Very good, and I believe they're actually in stock right now. It says experiencing delay in shipping, so when we click them before I recommend them. Okay, it's because of COVID. It just happened, just updated. So, anyways, they're shipping within a week, so no big deal. They're not Amazon, but we're all spoiled. We're used to stuff taking a while. So this is my go-to company that I've used before. It's My Patriot Supply. It's a American-owned company. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and share them now. Just want to be sure that they were actually in stock. Right here. Here you go. All right, so it's mypatriotsupply.com. I'll put it down in the comments on our Facebook page. So their stuff here is good. You got a very good shelf life on it, very inexpensive. One of the biggest things you want to look at if you're trying to be on a budget is look at your cost per calorie. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go full screen on this in a second so I can scroll through it. There you go. So they're really good about telling you 1,500 calories per day, 2,000 calories per day for 30 days. So something to think about that. $300 for a 4-week emergency food supply, the third item right here on the right, 2,000 calories a day. Me personally, that's what I always go with at a minimum. That's, many of you don't realize it, but you're consuming 2,000 calories in one meal a lot of times, and you're going to be super hungry when it comes down to it if you don't have enough food to eat, and you're going to have problems adjusting. You may even overeat. So think about that. I highly recommend. Let me see if I can go back to sharing it again because I went full screen on accident or took it out of full screen. So there we go. $300, very affordable. They've got all kinds of different stuff. They've got this emergency food supplement. It's very inexpensive, but that's, it's a 30-day supply to basically it's vitamins on steroids. You can see right here, 1 year emergency supply of food, $3,000. It can get expensive, or you can, even if you want, like we talked about the ammo can kind of approach, they've got a 1-week food supply right here for $67. You're going to need to think about how many people do I have in my family? How much food do they eat a day? Because those prices and those supplies I gave you are for one person. So like we talked about in the first episode, this is why you don't want to have the whole entire neighborhood at your house, because you're going to go through food like that and you don't really think about it till you can't get it. I want every one of our listeners to go back and think right now, okay, if I couldn't get any food today, I could not go get any more. Couldn't get it. How long could I last without having to leave my house? Your answer needs to be at least 30 days. And that's the minimum standard, in my opinion. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, James. But you need to have a 30-day supply of food on hand at all times. And then we'll start breaking down the shelf life on stuff and kind of what else to go into. So your thoughts.
Yeah, now I would say 30 days is the minimum. And it is a considerable amount more food than you might think it is. Depending on the household, depending on the ages of, let's say, children, or, do you have in-laws living with you, anything like that, you're going to have to take that into consideration. And it's something that really needs to be said for even the bags that we have. as far as your get home bag or your your bailout or bug out bag or things like that. You also need to think about the additional persons that might be with you, and that's going to need this kind of gear as well. But yes, Eric brings up a great site here. This is one actually that I was going to cover. I do have an alternative one here that we're going to do as well. But sure. I think the shelf life, as Eric was pointing out, with those yearly plans there, I think with all their food is and I want to say it's highlighted right here, up to 25-year shelf life when unopened. So this is something that you could buy in confidence, and you don't have to worry about it going bad, every couple of years, and you've just spent $3,000 trying to supply a year's worth of food that just goes bad. So to me, that's a great plan right there. I haven't done the math on it. I'm sure that's a fantastic price if you did it by the yearly. And then so I'm going to also refer us over to, there's another company called mountainhouse.com.
Yep. I'll go to them for you.
Yeah. Mountain House, they supply a lot of the same things there in similar quantities and whatnot. But these are meals. I've actually had one of these meals before, and it was fantastic. It was just like a spaghetti with meatball, and I mean, it was something you could put in a restaurant. It was actually really good. Now, I have heard that there are some certain ones you might want to stay away from if you don't have a very specific taste. But the Mountain House stuff is really good. And then the one that Eric pointed out earlier at, that you can pick up at My Patriot Supply, they have a lot of really, really, really quality stuff, and it has a enormous shelf life on it. I think that's one of the most important things to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Mountain House is very good. They're in and out of their supply a lot because they are a very, very popular brand. As James said, they're very tasty. Yeah. And their shelf life on their stuff, I'm pretty sure is about the same. I think it's up to 25 years for theirs. I need to double check it.
Yeah.
But something to think about, the reason why I was holding this up too, so it's 24 meal kit right here that they're showing. So on these MREs that I showed you earlier, these are actually U.S. government issued MREs. You can actually even see it. Let me see. It says sale. This is prohibited to public, commercial sales unlawful. So don't know how I got those, but that's pretty funny. 5-year shelf life on those. So you've got a 5-year shelf life if you buy these versus the 25-year shelf life if you buy the other stuff. So again, it's something to think about. Those MREs are super tasty. They're super good, and just, something to think about. You just really got to figure it out. And one thing with the Mountain House stuff and with some of the other meals I showed you, you're going to have access to clean water. So that's, again, water's king. It's the gift of, that's what gives us life. You're going to need to have a way to filter the water, a way to clean it in a way, that you can clean it sufficiently where you can cook with it and feel safe eating your food.
Yeah. So let's move on into, I think, what most people would consider one of the most important things, if not equally important, which would be the home defense or the weaponry that you might be keeping in your home for such events. And something that I want to discuss, and we lightly touched on it last time we did this, an episode similar, was going to be the idea of a vest or a plate carrier.
Yep.
And I personally have multiple plate carriers at my house. I keep 2 or 3 of a basic level 3 plate carrier, and those are with front, back, and side plates. And then I also have versions that just have the front and back plates in case you have someone that's more slender, and the side plates will be actually in the way and causing a gap in between the surface of their body. So if you have smaller, like a small female, you're going to want to probably have one without the side plates. And then if you, for anybody else, you're going to want to have the ones with the side plates just for maximum protection. And that's a preference. I know the guys in the military, they're going to have their own preferences, whether they want to walk around with the side plates as well. But it's mandatory that you guys have a front and back plate setup and a plate carrier for that. I do have my own personal set of level 4s, and the idea behind that is that I will be the primary defender, and I will be the one that would be going to check on what's going on or going out into a situation where it may become combative. And so I do keep a set of level 4s. I do have the additional 2 or 3 pairs of level 3s, which would be to put on other family members if we're going to try to relocate or we needed to move and we need to be on foot somehow, or just for a certain amount of protection. Ultimately, your plan should involve trying to keep everyone that's non-combatant out of harm's way in the first place. So that's just my thinking on it. At the time, I wasn't able to go out and spend the money to get 4 or 5 pairs of level 4s. But, again, that comes down to personal preference, and it needs to be something that you have a plan for. So definitely wanted to cover the idea of, body armor and a plate carrier or some kind, even a soft vest. I know that Safe Life has a very, very nice soft vest that's way underrated as far as its ability to stop even a rifle round. So, and those are at reasonable distances as well. So definitely want to invest in some armor, because you're not going to do very good trying to fight the fight if you have bullet holes in you right away.
Yeah, no, I agree. Having a good plate carrier is huge. A couple different reasons. Even one that, minus the protection, it's a way to carry your magazines better. It's just more efficient, because there's something I've seen a lot of people, you got guys running around in BDU pants with mags tucked in everywhere and don't know where any of their crap is because it's not organized on the vest carrier. Again, something like that, the protection obviously is the number one reason why you want one, and they're great for that reason. But having your stuff organized tactically, there's a reason why law enforcement wears it the way they do. There's a reason why our military wears the stuff the way they do, because it's just efficient. And I'll beat this dead horse constantly. If you own a plate carrier, and I know James has done it, and obviously I do it, you need to train with it. You need to train reloading your gun from there. You need to train, okay, where's my cat tourniquet? Practice stuff like that. Yes, it may seem corny, but you need to practice removing those items from your vest, knowing where your pistol mags are, knowing where your rifle mags are. Knowing all these things is a huge deal and hugely important. Train. Don't just play. We've talked about this. Don't go out there and just plink rounds with your friends and waste ammo, especially now, because ammo is impossible to find for a reasonable price. I mean, I've seen boxes of 50 now going for just ungodly amounts of money. But anyways, practice with what you own. Train with somebody that knows what they're doing, that knows more about it than you, and get better with it. It's kind of overwhelming, and we'll kind of break down, I guess, kind of what an order we'll do. Like we said, we'll do a form and put it out there of what you need to prioritize. That way you can kind of start wrapping your head around it, because you could easily spend, thousands upon thousands of dollars for stuff if you're trying to buy it all at once. And I think that's where a lot of people have found themselves at, and that's where they are right now. And that's why so many people are so ill prepared for it.
Yeah, and I'll get your opinion on this as well. So, because you brought up magazine and magazine placement, one of the things that I get mixed responses from different people is as far as keeping magazines loaded. And I'm a big fan of keeping magazines loaded. I keep a ton of magazines loaded at my house. I probably have 2 magazines that aren't loaded, and that's just because I recently used them, and I just haven't reloaded them and put them back in their proper slot. Now, we're talking, someone that owns, 50, 100, 200 magazines for my ARs especially. So, I have plenty of magazines loaded. Now, the argument that I've heard from people in the past is that you wear the springs out in them. No. And I do take that into consideration. I also take into consideration how easily it's going to be able to load into the weapon. And into, trying to seat it in the mag well properly. Usually your magazines are very easy to seat if you're in a bolt back scenario where maybe we've exhausted all the ammunition out of the gun and the bolt's locked to the back. We can just slide one in. If you're in a bolt forward situation where it's non-emergency, I do tend to keep in a 30-round magazine. I'll keep 26 to 28 rounds in it, just so it's easier to get in and out. Ultimately, maybe that helps with the spring life and not compressing that spring much. But I wanted to mention that, and I'll get your thoughts on it, because I've heard people say that, oh, no, don't keep your magazines loaded all the time. And to me, that I couldn't even imagine not having loaded magazines and trying to load a magazine in an emergency situation.
Right. No, and that is, I'm not going to call it a complete myth, because it's not a complete myth. Again, I don't get into too much to my employment, but I work in the industry. We'll leave it at that. And there have been many tests done on leaving magazines loaded over a period of time. What I say back in the day with the old school, military, the old school metal mags with the old spring systems and all the old systems in it, don't leave them loaded. Yeah. Where I work, we all keep our mags loaded. I keep my mags loaded all the time. I've got certain magazines that I just keep still in their packaging just in case I want to sell them down the road and make some money off them or whatever. And I do have some other empty mags that are, virgin mags, never been loaded before. But you can absolutely, if you buy high quality mags, that's key number one. Don't buy crap. Buy P mags. And yes, and I'm going to get into what Clinton just said. He's absolutely right. Yeah. So buying quality is number one. So if you own a Glock, for example, buy Glock mags. And I don't know of any other companies that really make mags that go on Glocks other than Glock. But let's get to rifle mags. You've got P mags, which are the most common, which is the only thing I'll run in any of my rifles. Magpul P mags. That's all I'll run. It's just personal preference. You've got, thermolds, which we call them thermomelts because they melt and they just, they're not very good. You've got Lancer mags, which are okay. There's a reason why you're going to pay what you pay. Buying a $9 mag versus a $6 mag or a $12 mag versus a $9, there's usually a reason. Do some research, ask some people that know, and there'll be a reason why. Those mags are made to be loaded. Like Clinton said, if you train enough, you notice when your mag springs start causing malfunctions, there's no way of these mags unloaded. Basically, they're no good to you in that case. Absolutely correct. Which is one of the reasons when you own magazines, you should go and buy spare parts for them too. You can buy the springs, you can buy the floor plates, you can buy all the stuff to fix it in case something does go wrong instead of having to just throw it in the trash because you don't want to do that because then you're losing assets. We've talked about assets and liabilities. You're throwing away an asset at that point. Having spare parts for your guns, huge deal. Huge deal. If you own an AR, you better have a spare lower parts kit or two laying around because if you lose a little itty bitty spring this big, that's a 1 penny part, you're useless. You can do nothing. And same part for any of your handguns. If you own a Glock, Ruger, Springfield, whatever it is you own, you need to have spare parts for your stuff. You can't really you can go to gun stores and buy parts, but it's not like, AutoZone or O'Reilly or an auto parts store where you can walk in, hey, sir, I need a pin A.2 for my handgun to fix it today. You can't really do that. You have to wait to order it. And guess what? If stuff goes to shit, you're not going to be able to order it from anybody. So you better have spare parts on hand anyways. Always have spare parts. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, and also as far as, and this is something I've found, when you have magazines that malfunction regularly, don't discard those magazines. Just mark them as training magazines. Those are a great way to train with unexpected malfunctions. And sometimes it's hard to, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to create the malfunctions when you're operating with quality gear. And so if you do have one that's going bad or one or two, say you notice a magazine's not feeding well or you continuously have malfunctions with it, that is a great way to train malfunction clearing and doing so in an emergency situation. And it's nothing more than just taking a marker, a Sharpie or something like that, and labeling the magazine as a training magazine. So just throw that out there in case that helps for anyone that's ever tried to create malfunction situations. You're just not able to. In a weird way, if you're fortunate enough to have a magazine that continuously malfunctions, label that guy. Don't do anything. Don't throw it away. Just label it and use it for training potential malfunctions when you guys are at the range.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing you can do if you want to start being able to induce malfunction safely. You can buy dummy rounds. I do it for all the guys that I train where I work at. You can buy dummy rounds. You can train ammunition malfunction. You can induce stovepipes and things like that. Having a mag malfunction, knowing that, hey, that mag's toast and being able to dump that. Yeah, you can't just induce that. And that's like James said, be smart, market, use it as an asset still, even though it's not, working as intended. If you don't have spare parts, just mark it. Hey, this is the last mag. If my life depends on it, this is the only mag I got left. This is the last one I'm grabbing. Just know that. And again, that's about knowing your gear and training your gear and knowing your stuff. So, you can own all the cool stuff in the world. Again, if it just sits in a safe and doesn't get used and utilized, then you're never going to know what you actually have. And as far as keeping mags unloaded, absolutely right. Clinton makes a great point for many reasons. So carrying 1,000 rounds of ammunition, which by the way, in my opinion, is the bare minimum you need for every caliber of gun you have. Having 1,000 rounds of ammunition and trying to carry that somewhere, I don't know how many of you have owned or bought cases of ammo. It's extremely heavy. Do you really want to carry an ammo can full of unloaded magazines and try to load those in the heat of battle? it sucks bad enough loading them when, you don't have any stress on you, much less if you're, getting shot at or your house is being assaulted. You don't have time to load your magazines. Like Clinton said, completely useless, in my opinion. With the way the quality of manufacturing processes has increased over the years, I think you're pretty safe to keep your mags fully loaded. Just be sure not to overload them, because there are certain mags, if you push them too hard, you can put, 31, 32 rounds in them, and you don't want to do that, because then you are putting stress on your springs.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, you definitely need to count the rounds as you go in. Don't just blindly sit there and load them. But I think we can probably agree that Magpul PMags would be your basic go-to, right? I mean, you're across the board. That's going to be your most cost-effective with an extreme reliability. I've never had any problems with any of my Magpul PMags, especially the later generations. So. That would you agree that that's a good place to start, especially for someone that doesn't know much about the differences between the magazines?
Yes, 100%, 100%, absolutely. That's the way to go. Huge believer in those brands. Period.
So the other thing that definitely needs to be addressed when you're looking at preparedness in your home, and so I'm going to be a little more specific here and this is for folks that may not be gun enthusiasts, but they have weapons and they've thought about at some point, what if I had to use this to defend my home? So number one, let's say someone breaches the home and it's a situation where family members are in the house. You need to have some kind of plan as to what, how you're going to signal to the other family members that something's going on. Where are they going to go? Do you have kids? Do they have a place that they need to specifically go should something happen? Should you have to start firing rounds inside the dwelling? And that's an extremely important thing, because you always want to know the direction that you're firing rounds. And, you're responsible for every round that you fire. And that's why it's so important to train and be well practiced and well versed in your weaponry and in the use of such. However, you need to also have a plan of engagement, as far as if someone were to come in the house and let's say they were entering from this point, then, how would I approach handling, that particular threat? Or should they approach from a different angle or a different, entrance? Then how am I gonna approach that threat, and also keeping in mind the safety of everyone in the house? So it's definitely something that you need to think about, and we've started to see it in the times we're in right now. We're seeing, more and more home invasions. You're seeing the more unrest in the streets. You're seeing a lot of threats, mainly on the suburbs, saying that they're going to, leave the inner cities and come to the suburbs and start knocking on doors and beating doors down. And we haven't really seen a lot of that yet. However, it's not a bad idea to prepare for such. And that's why, as Eric says, is the most important thing to do is just train constantly as much as you can, even if you're doing dry fire drills, even if you're doing just magazine, reload drills. These are things that you can do at home and expend minimal amount of ammo, in some cases zero ammo. As ammo right now is very difficult to come across. So
yes,
hopefully everyone out there is already prepared for that part, and they have a sufficient amount of ammo, we'll say. But it's different times that we live in now, and it would be great if we didn't have to have this conversation. But unfortunately, it seems like it's a conversation that needs to be had right now.
Yeah, it's 100%, and that's one thing I would encourage everybody when things do normalize again, and hopefully they will. It doesn't look good right now, but hopefully they will. When it does normalize and ammo prices go back down and supplies are there, that's when you really need to be a responsible person, take it upon yourself to really start preparing again. Now is definitely a time, if I was going to suggest for you to buy a food supply, do it now, because what happened when the pandemic happened is all that stuff went away. There was actually all the MREs and all these companies initially got ordered. I forgot the name of the executive order that Trump signed, but basically where all their supplies went to the government to be sure that the government was completely funded and filled with these foods. So you need to think about that. Right now, nobody's attention is really on food. So go get it now. Don't worry about ammo right now. I mean, if you can find it cheap in a store somewhere, go do that online. Good luck. You won't find it. We've tried repeatedly to find it for cheap. You're going to pay an arm and a leg. You need a small loan to get stuff at this point. Go get food. That would be my 100% suggestion. I was actually looking at the pricing differences, and I'll get to it in a sec. I got to go back to show you guys between the different prices per calories, how we were talking about that. The first company we linked, I want to show you since I have it called up now. Oh, let's see right here. I'll go full screen with it. There you go. There's your price per calories as talked about. So you've got My Patriot Supply, which is the first company we shared. You're paying basically $9.89 per 2,000 calories for 60,000 calories. Then you can just go on down the list all the way to Mountain House with other companies. Their stuff is amazing tasting, but you're going to pay for it. You're paying not quite 3 times, but as you can see, 147% higher for your stuff. So if you want bang for your buck and stuff that tastes pretty good, I would go with the first company. And then if you're trying to have the Cadillac stuff, go with Mountain House. It's super good too.
Yeah, and it at that point it just comes down to trying to figure in your comfort and your preferences along with the amount of money you're willing to spend or the budget that you have for preparing. And we don't want to leave anybody with an idea of paranoia. It's just being prepared is much different than being paranoid. These are just good things to have overall. No matter what happens. I mean, we've seen these kind of instances happen not when we have like political unrest, but we've seen this happen in earthquakes. We've had it happen with hurricane disasters. I mean, this is something that it is a great idea to have these kind of things around the house and also to know where they're at, have them organized in some fashion so that they're usable and you're not trying to dig through a bunch of stuff to figure out what you need to do in an emergency and especially I'll back to like medical. If you guys have any kind of medical bag, especially if you've purchased a trauma bag or something that comes with a large kit of really everything that you need. Usually those kits come to where they are somewhat put together in categories as to how you would use it. But most of that stuff is packaged and it needs to be unpackaged and it needs to be readily available so that you can use it in an emergency situation should that come up.
Yes, 100%. Being organized in these times is key. Again, it goes back to, you need to know where your stuff is. That way, because you're panicking, you're not going to think about it. I'm lucky enough, I have an entire room that I've dedicated to my house that has all my stuff. It's very organized, have shelving, and there's reasons why I don't show it to anybody. But yeah, I mean, be smart about it. Keep it, be careful with your stuff. Something to think about, like your ammo and things like that and your food. Keeping ammo climate controlled and keeping moisture away from it's a big deal. Anywhere you store ammo, I would 100% recommend either having the little pellet things in the packs, have those in all your ammo cans, your packs, or wherever near your stuff, or have a mechanical dehumidifier, something that actually does pull the stuff out there that you plug in the wall, keep it in those rooms. It's all about extending the life of your supply of your stuff that you've had that you've spent tons of money on. So be smart about that as well. Don't leave it in your garage. Don't leave it in your car. I've seen guys that have left, they've left ammo and stuff out in the garage for the summer. And with all the moisture and stuff, it just starts, corroding away the primers and the casings. And at that point, I'm not going to fire that ammo. You might as well throw it in the trash because it's just not safe.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, I think we've gotten to a point where we can wrap up for today. We've covered a plethora of stuff, and so I'll do a quick recap here. As far as the bag the specific bag that I went through today, that's what I consider my get home bag. It's something that I keep in the vehicle, and that kind of explains, why I have the knives and I have the ability to camp. I have, the vitamin C, I think is a very important thing so that you can stay healthy when you're out. It's great to have, can never have enough vitamin C really in your system. Some way to have lighting and some way to have fire and some way to have warmth. That's kind of the theme of this bag here. Eric went a little over a little more of his prep bag as far as, having some medical in it, having, the ability to have additional ammo and arms and things like that. Should that come up, we've got like I said, I have a full trauma bag that I keep with me, and that's going to have all of the medical in it. I think mine goes as far as to even have a CPR breather in it, as far as a pump breather. So, and it just that's up to you guys' own personal preference. I would definitely have one of these bags or put something together so that you're not the only one that doesn't have something should anything arise. As far as home preparedness, I would say, Make sure that you door locks are very important. Additional means besides just your traditional like contractor grade door locks. You guys may want to look at that. Security system, having one of the main things is just having a security sign out in the front yard. These are very important things as far as just getting your home ready for a situation that should arise, and then having a game plan inside the house, like we talked about, making sure your kids know where to go, making sure that you're aware of where they are, and you have to do as little verbal communication as possible, and then having the training to go along with it. And I think that the training is going to be the most important thing you can do. Again, we know it's difficult to train right now because of the lack of ammunition for shooting a live fire, but get the training that you can. Try to set aside a budget so that you can afford to do as much training as possible, and be familiar with your weapon system and familiar with with your dwelling in multiple lighting situations. And and I think that covers most of the basis for what we would say the broad scale general public.
Yeah, absolutely. Just be smart, prepare for your family. It's an important thing. It's just something we all need to do. We need to focus on. I think we all kind of get wrapped up in the day-to-day stuff, and just understand that things could go very good or very bad soon. And just be smart and just be a responsible person. I mean, that's the best thing I can say. And RJ, is thank you as well, buddy. Thank you for always listening. We appreciate your loyalty. Just be smart, man. Get training. Get out there. Hit me or James up. We have people text us all the time or message us on the site asking questions and providing other things to us. So feel free to reach out to us. We don't mind answering questions for you. Just give us a minute to get back, and we will. And those of y'all that are local, me and James are still working on some training classes. We'll get those going, kicked up. And so again, thank you for everybody that listens. Don't always believe what the media tells you. Do your own research. Be smart, and I hope you have a good week. Last word with you, James.
Yeah, so I'll go over the sponsors real quick one more time. We've got All Weather Construction. That should be rolling right down there at the bottom of your screen. That's Steven over at All Weather Construction, and that's for any of your home improvement needs, the renovations, anything like that. 470-519-6988. Again, that number is 470-519-6988. The guys over at Peach State Printing for any of your printing needs. Again, they do everything, car wraps to banners to business cards. They do it all, promotional items. Check out Jason and the guys over at Peach State Printing. That's 770-439-0335. And you can catch those guys at peachstateprinting.com. And then one more time, we have North Cobb Spine and Nerve for any of your chiropractic or physical medicine needs. They're located in Ackworth, Georgia. You can catch them at 678-574-5678. And that web address is northcobbspine.com. So reach out to our sponsors. They support us, guys. We would love for you guys to reach out and support them. I try to do all my business with these guys as much as possible. And I know they would really appreciate the support and also the feedback as well. So you guys fill up the comment section with any reviews that you have. If you've used any of these places before, they would highly appreciate it. And also, as far as the comment sections go, make sure that you guys are throwing out ideas for us. If you have something that you'd like for us to specifically cover, we would love to have those ideas. We can put a show together specifically for that, and we'll address any questions that you have, as Eric stated before. So other than that, you guys have a good day. It was good to get to have the show again, and we really appreciate the support and just the ability to be able to come on here and share some information.